up, chooms? Welcome back to Rough Start, where we here at Rough Magic Games teach you how to play a different tabletop role-playing game every episode. That's right, we run through it so you don't have a rough start. My name is Charlotte, I use she/her pronouns, and I am a professional GM with Rough Magic Games, a collection of many more professional game masters for hire. If you're interested in playing a game with one of our GMs, be sure to check out roughmagicgames.com. If you already know who we are and love what we do, check out our Patreon. The link is in the doobly-doo below. I love exploring the wide world of pen and paper role-playing games, and I can't wait to get chromed up and jam with the console cowboys in cyberspace, because tonight I am joined by...
Hello there. I'm Troy Bushido. I am part-time cosplayer and also a pro GM for Rough Magic here in the Chicagoland area. Yeah, I run games for them, especially during the Chicago-based conventions such as C2E2 and Fan Expo. I do run tabletop games such as Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder 1 and 2 Edition, a couple light ones such as Morkborg, Cyborg, and I've started to become known as the Rough Magic Residence Cyberpunk GM, which Charlotte brought me on board for this.
Yes, I
So
wonder why you're here, what we could possibly be talking about
let's
tonight.
talk about Salvage Union, where Fallout meets Gundam. No, we're talking about Cyberpunk. Let's go.
Hell yeah, I love it. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I think you and I met in person for the first time at Fan Expo this summer,
Yes.
which was so fun. If you were in the Chicagoland area and you haven't gone to Fan Expo, come to Fan Expo next year.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Oh yeah.
Do it, and
Yes,
we'll see you there.
absolutely. It's a little less chaotic than our flagship Chicago Comic Con C2E2. It's a little bit outside of downtown Chicago, thank gods. It's a little bit easier to drive there or commute there, and you'll have a lot more room to partake in not only the small quick RPGs that we have on the con floor, but then we have a whole con room of RPGs done like around the clock for 3 whole days. You will find a game of your choice, and you may even get a chance to play multiple games the whole weekend. So
Yes, and you may play a game with one of us as well.
there we go, baby.
Yes, you love to see it. Fantastic. So much fun. Can't wait for the next convention. But while we are here, let's talk Cyberpunk Red. This is a game that you and I both have experience with. I'm finally off my streak of talking about games I haven't played before on Rough Start. Welcome, welcome back.
Yes,
um,
familiar territory, huh?
Yes. Oh, it feels like home. I'm so excited to be talking about Cyberpunk Red. It is one of my current favorites. Cyberpunk Red is the latest edition of the classic role-playing game of the Dark Future, not to be confused with the grim dark far future from Warhammer 40k. This one features updated mechanics and a new lore set in 2045. Which is midway between the events of Cyberpunk 2020, the previous edition, and Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. The original Cyberpunk game was written by Mike Pondsmith and published by Talsorian Games in 1988, so we are talking about a classic here.
Oh yeah.
Cyberpunk Red is the fourth edition of the game and was written and designed by Mike Pondsmith, still after all this time, as well as James Hutt, Cody Pondsmith, Jay Parker, Jay Gray, David Ackerman, and Jaye Kovach, and still published by Talsorian Games in 2019.
You gotta imagine for a moment, like, imagine if George Lucas just brought his own kids into Star Wars and kept doing it instead of selling to Disney. That's what Artile is doing right now. Like, Cody Pondsmith is like a grown adult and contributing to his dad's creation even now, and it's insane.
Keeping it in the family. We love it.
Exactly.
Amazing. So we've both mentioned obviously that we have some experience in this game. I am a player in this game. I've never run Cyberpunk Red as of yet, but I do love playing my Netrunner character, who is the disowned scion of a mega corporation who is looking to get back at his family by hacking in and klepping some secrets.
Oh gosh, yeah, disenfranchised family members from corporations is a very classic trope in cyberpunk characters. I do have experience GMing it. I've like I said, I've GM'd it live in person for Rough Magic at the past conventions. I think at C2E2 I ran Cyberpunk Red in what's called Easy Mode, which is a type of it's a type of version of Cyberpunk Red that is meant for beginners to dive into and play for the first time, as well as GMs. That was actually my first time GMing Red after being a player for many months. Um, the a lot of my learning of the game experience came from my GM, who's also a pro GM. Shout out to Diamond Dust out there. Diamond Dust is a pro GM who also runs Cyberpunk Red, many Cyberpunk Red games. She also is a VTuber. Her VTuber model is, in fact, a netrunner because that's how much she loves Cyberpunk
Hell
Red.
yeah.
So, shout out to Diamond. She's the one who taught me the game inside and out through playing it and through the trials and errors, being a longtime D&D guy, going into that, learning where to adapt and how that adaptation went was awesome. And the character I play currently in that game, their name is Rain. They are a gender fluid ninja, most of the time a femboy, but like full on gender fluid. Obviously, they them pronouns, loves the melee combat, loves getting in close and just
Hell
being
yeah.
a broody goth ninja, gender fluid. Uh, I wanted to like the cool thing about Cyberpunk is that because it takes place in the future, you can explore other facets of real life things. I don't want to say issues, but things in a safer space. Um, Diamond, Diamond is actually trans. She is a trans woman, so I felt super safe with her being like, "Hey, look, I'm pretty, I'm pretty like secure in my cis maleness, but I really want to understand um, gender identity and the challenges somebody going through gender identity issues or gender identity transformations go through. Can I explore that with you using this character?" And she was a great safety net in that. So that's how I am now playing someone who is non-binary, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to step out of myself to do that, and that's the cool thing
I
about
love
RPGs.
that
That's
for
kind of how it
you.
goes. Thank you,
I
thank you.
love that. I think I could go off on like an hour-long tangent about how TTRPG and playing TTRPG characters help us understand ourselves and the world around us even better. So I love that for you. I will not go off on that tangent. But I will
But
say the group that I play Cyberpunk with is also extremely queer and trans.
yeah.
Something about this game, I don't know, something about the dark future, living in a capitalist cyberpunk dystopia. Uh, I don't know. It it calls to us
Well,
somehow.
you know what? There is for all the disempowering, challenging elements of the environment inside Cyberpunk. There is a facet of empowerment, of identity empowerment. The fact of like, uh, you could technically have the technology to become anything you want. And I'll harken back into video games sometimes because I know it's a very familiar place for a lot of people learning this game. There's a character in there that is a full transition trans woman. Her name's Claire. She even talked about a little bit of her journey becoming a woman with her husband. Her husband was there right by her side the whole time, and there's a side story about that. So look up The Beast in Me for you video game players. You'll get you'll get a full on trans story there right in the video game.
Love, love, love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of segues nicely into talking about the first portion of Cyberpunk Red. We always do lore first here on Rough Start. Let's talk about there's a lot of lore in Cyberpunk.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
do a little snapshot. Let's just talk
Okay.
about the basics. Um, this is the dark future, as mentioned. My kind of snapshot is you have cybernetic augmentations in a hyper-capitalist dystopia.
Bingo. It's the way I always talk about the snapshot to help people out is so when it comes to sci-fi and cyberpunk settings, a lot of times you're going off on a tangent from our timeline. So you ask yourself, where did the timeline converge? Where did things go wrong? Where did it start going wrong? So the original Cyberpunk was written in 1988. So Mike Pondsmith wrote it in 1988. The first edition of Cyberpunk took place in 2013. So you have to ask yourself, Well, if it's gonna be, how is it different from what our 2013 was? Well, in Mike Pondsmith's Cyberpunk, things started going wrong around 1994.
My
Guys,
God, it was me. It was the year I was born. I
yeah, you
did
know
this.
what? Oh God, okay, it might have been. Well, I'll tell you this: if I had to take a prediction, and I will harken to real life just to kind of yank us out of our timeline here. What if Bill Clinton didn't get elected?
I see. I
So,
see where this is going.
so like people saw like really savvy writers saw like, okay, this is Reaganomics. What happens if we took this to its nth degree in the worst case scenario? So they had it their first financial collapse in 1994 because they had no Clinton. And they didn't have this guy to make sure there was a governmental surplus. He wasn't there. He wasn't there having relations or nothing or like saving the government. No. So but like we're not gonna say it was Bush. Bush had a second term. It was maybe somebody worse, and just
Probably someone worse
it
in the
was someone
cyberpunk
worse.
world.
Yeah. And then things started just rolling downhill. So do you mind if I keep rolling with the lore to start the fasted, or do you want to jump
Yeah,
into
go for
it?
it. Go for it.
Okay, so we
Please.
2013. So that's the first incarnation of it. The cybernetics were started in like the first wars, and of course, what's the bad part about Reaganomics? The drug wars. So there's our South American wars, and people are starting to get robot parts in their bodies because they're getting wounded in these South American drug wars. Um, and then obviously the cybernetics became popular with civilian life in Night City, which was a man-made created city in between LA and San Francisco. It was actually a person who was a civil engineer turned philanthropist entrepreneur, Richard Knight, just decided to slap his own city right in the middle of California.
Indeed. And Night City is the main location for Cyberpunk Red.
Exactly, exactly. Where
And
are
cyberpunk in general,
in
really.
Cyberpunk in general. The reason why it's called Red is because eventually, like world wars and nation wars were starting to become very passe. No one cared, and anyone who really cared found their pieces in their unions, and they held. Instead, we got corporate wars. Like whole mega corporations got so big that they were able to raise their own armies, private armies, to go to war with each other. And around 2023 was something called the Fourth Corporate War. Let's not even get into what happened in World One, Two, and Three. Number
Yeah, the
four was
fourth
the
one is the one that matters for Cyberpunk Red. It's the
oh
one
yeah,
with the most material effects on Night City, i.e., an atomic bomb going off.
yeah, a nuke went off. A nuke literally went off in the middle of the dang city, making a mushroom cloud that everyone saw. Of course, they're lucky the nuke wasn't so big to wreck the entire city, just the middle of it. So it created from about 2023 to about 2045, where this game takes place, something called Time of the Red, where the skies were literally just a shade of red. Midday, shade of red. Sun up, shade of red. Sun down, shade of red. It just in the time you guys start playing 2045, it started just clearing up. But sometimes you get a red day. Sometimes you get a red night. Sometimes you just get that red haze. Even in 2077, sometimes you get a smog day and it's a red day again. It's just a shade of like burnt orange red.
Yes.
Um, so we're in a timeline of imagine a city, a metropolis being rebuilt. Like imagine for a second, since we're a lot of us in Rough Magic are Chicago based, imagine if downtown was a crater. Just decimated, and you're
Yeah.
seeing like construction equipment like flown in from above your outskirts of where you live. And for another simile, another metaphor with the Chicagoans, imagine how bad our road construction is in any given highway at any given time. Imagine that being all of downtown. They're releasing rubble. They're trying to clear rubble out. They're trying to finish off some buildings that didn't fully collapse yet, so they could rebuild another building. They're sending in materials. They're sending out garbage. In some cyberpunk tables, this has become very D&D like because it's actual like ruins. People can get
Yeah.
paid to go and get corporate secrets from the ruins of a megacorp building that might have a computer file still intact. And hey, a runaway from the cyber psycho decided to set up shop in there. And uh, do I have a second to side tangent?
Sure.
Diamond, crazy lady. She created one of our game sessions was an episode like Alien Isolation where she put a cyber psycho on us, like a
No.
very one shot kill us cyber
No.
psycho where it's like, no, we're gonna stand and fight this fool. We do, we're all dead.
Well, oh
So
my god. Speaking of cyber psychos, actually, I think this is a good bit to put in the lore
yeah,
section as well, which we'll go over the actual mechanics of it later. But along with the cybernetic augmentations in a hyper-capitalist dystopia, comes some side effects, which may occur if you accrue too many medically not necessary cybernetic augmentations.
yeah,
And this in lore is a dissociative disease called cyberpsychosis.
yeah.
And it's not great when you encounter it in the game.
Yeah. It's one of the weirdest things, and I think it's easy to find look at all these RPGs and see where inspiration may have fallen on places. Um, there's going to be a chicken and egg scenario in the world of RPGs. Who came up with the humanity system first? Was it Cyberpunk or was it Vampire the Masquerade? But for you VTM players, that's a very, very similar mechanic. The more augmentation, and we're going to talk probably more about this later, but the more cybernetics you carry that are more luxury and not necessary for life, but just improve life, um, the more disassociated you get to your own humanity. Hence, very similar to vampire, where the more vampiric you get, the less human you become, or less human you be over time. And we'll get into that later. But it creates a really cool mental health subtext theme that like is underneath the entire power fantasy dystopia game we have.
Yeah, a game with themes. I've never heard that in my life.
Right.
I don't know anything about that.
Like
Um,
except the themes on screen, right?
oh no, not the themes on screen.
Oh my
Um,
god, our graphics queen is just dragging us through the mud with this, aren't ya?
Damn. All right. Well, speaking of, I feel like we can move on from the little bit of lore. Very good snapshot on that. Just think about if an atomic bomb went off downtown Chicago, and
Yep.
makes perfect sense to me.
The reconstruction
Um,
efforts, they suck.
yeah, yeah, it's bad. But yes, okay. I want to touch on before we get into the actual like what type of dice do you roll? What are the stats and skills in this game? This comes very early on in the book. The rules. Number 1, style over substance. Number 2, attitude is everything. Number 3, live on the edge. And number 4, break the rules.
Yeah,
This I feel like sums up Cyberpunk Red perfectly, especially number 1, style over substance.
yeah.
This is a game that is made to emulate the style and feel of the cyberpunk genre, and it does it very well.
Hmm.
Um, your character is a cool motherfucker in
Yeah.
this, and their attitude is everything. And they live on the edge, and they break the rules.
They will literally live and die by their style. And a couple things, and we'll get into the rules later, but the Cyberpunk in its mechanics is a very high danger game. It's some players call it a very deadly game where a lot of characters will snuff it. A lot of characters will just kerplunk it, and those losses will be felt like any other TTRPG. At the same time, it's encouraged that you play your character to the most nth-ish degree, the most nth degree, live the life, maximize the life, don't min max the life. Like, and that's how I always say it. So with these four rules, they're encouraging you as a player to go out and take risks with your character that maybe even the stats on the character sheet may not encourage. Because what that's doing is it's going to create massive, impressive memories for your time playing it, whether you live or you die. And in the Night City lore, the true Night City legends, 90% of them are dead. Like in order to be a legend, you not only have to live hard, but you gotta die hard, no pun intended.
Oh yeah, the
Like
brightest stars burn the shortest.
exactly, and that's half the fun of that game, and that that will not prevent, but will encourage players not to play it safe and not to play it timid and not to stay constrained to just the capabilities you see on your character sheet. Go
Yeah.
out, all out.
100%. 100%. I know I've quoted this like 10 billion times before on Rough Start, probably every episode, but play your character like you're driving a stolen car.
Yes,
And that's definitely what Cyberpunk wants you to do.
absolutely. It wrote the book on that style of play.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Amazing. Now that we've got the rules down, let's talk a little bit about statistics. I think we've got next on our list.
Yeah.
If we want to hit that next slide.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there we go. Okay, so now we're getting into the actual nitty gritty.
Yep.
Statistics are like the attributes in D&D, so like strength, constitution, etc., etc., etc. But there are more in Cyberpunk Red, and they are split into 4 categories. We have our mental category, which is intelligence, will, cool, and empathy. We have our combat category, which is technique and reflex. Our fortune category, which is just luck. Our physical category, body, dexterity, and your move. And then beyond that, there are also some derived stats like your hit points, your wound threshold, and your death save, and your humanity, which Troy mentioned as well.
Yeah. The thing about this and what people will notice in D&D, for coming from D&D to Cyberpunk, is that these stats, which were attributes, some of them would feel like they're blended together, like 2 D&D attributes make one stat, and then sometimes one D&D attribute splits off into 2 stats. So for instance, like reflexes and dexterity were just the dexterity attribute in D&D. But they actually, in fact, you could say 3 of them, reflexes, dex, and move, were the dexterity attribute from D&D. It was split into 3 because of how frenetic the the action is in the cyberpunk genre. Because now we're going from swinging swords and casting spells and just like the casting time to just literal bullets flying and people having to contend with that. On the other hand, there's a stat there called body. Body is essentially a combination of strength and constitution from D&D. So, just how overall in shape you are. Sometimes it's blended together for the fact of like you uh, to improve your body is not just to strength train or eat healthy. Now you could chrome it up. So now at that point, the stat just kind of blends in of itself because now you're using cybernetics. So
Hell
those
yeah.
coming in from D&D, you're gonna see some similarities, and you're gonna see where one attribute split up into other stats and how they relate. So that'll take a little bit of getting used to, but you'll get there. And the thing about humanity and hit points that we call derived stats, those are basically taking 2 stats that you see on screen and blending them together into some math. We'll get into that later.
Yes, perfect, amazing. And I wanted to add an image on screen of like what a layout of these stats might look like
Yeah.
for a character, just so that everyone out there watching can get a feel for what the numbers look like. So you see like nothing above a 10 right now. In between like 5, 6, 7 is where characters normally start with these stats.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's a scale up, tens and max on usually a lot of them, unless you get really chromed out, and we'll get there.
Yeah, turns out 10 is an important number in this game because you also roll d10s,
We'll
which we
get to
will get to
that.
as
Yeah, that's
well.
that's our crux.
Little
That's the crux of
sneak
our game here.
peek, little sneak peek. But for now, I think we'll talk about skills.
Yep.
Um, I did not put a full list of skills on the screen because, frankly, there are too many of them,
There are way
in
too
my
many of
opinion.
them. Yes. So one thing I always say about the skills in here, the Pathfinder 1 players will be right at home.
Oh
The
yeah.
five the 5e players will get overwhelmed. I promise you that. So here's the thing. Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to. What you're gonna see on your character sheet is the skill. Some character sheets will have the skills in alphabetical order. Personally, I hate that. Some version of the character sheet, I think the Edge Runners mission kit does it this way. The skills will be categorized by their correlating stats. So like I said, with comparing it to Pathfinder 1 or even 5e, a skill is something that your base stat uses. Kind of like in D&D, I'm trying to think of a skill off the top of my head. The sleight of hand skill from D&D is a derivative of the dexterity attribute, right? So in Pathfinder 1, you would put like a bonus, like it's a +1 or a +2 or +3 bonus on that skill, and then you add it to that attribute, and then you roll a dice, and then you get a number. Here in Cyberpunk Red, it's very, very similar, where
It is.
you will throw ranks in skills, and as you bump up the rank, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You take that number, you add it to the stats, and then instead of a D20, which is Pathfinder and D&D, you're going to do a D10. So it is a very, very exhaustive list. But one cool thing about it is that there's in character creation, when you create your character, there's going to be a ton of skills that are kind of pre-built into your character that already have some bonuses in there. So you don't have to choose. You don't have to look at the whole list and be like, "Oh my god, where do I start?" There's going to be like a good third of the list that you already have like ranks in. And you're like,
Yes.
oh, okay, so this is I could either like double down on some of these ranks, or then I could veer off and think of something else. Um, so it does get intimidating at first. We'll talk about the three styles of character creation later, which will actually alleviate some of that stress. But yeah, if it looks a little intimidating, I get it. Don't worry about it. One big note about these skills as well is that we're more Skyrim rules than D&D rules, so you basically can improve each individual scores. Cyberpunk is not on a
Yes.
level system, so it's not a level 1, level 2, level 3, and that's how you improve things. You basically get improvement points at the end of your gigs, which would then distribute into the skills you want to boost. So, like I said,
Totally.
kind of like
And some
yeah,
skills are harder to learn than others as
oh
well.
yeah, the martial arts, all that. I know kung fu. You better invest your improvement points. Yeah, I'll be doing like Keanu Reeves for this episode because as you can tell, he's a big fixture in the zeitgeist of cyberpunk now. So,
Yes, he is Johnny
he-
Silverhand.
whoa,
He is the rocker boy.
yes, we'll talk about Rocker Boys in a bit. Those are fun.
Amazing. The only thing I want to add to talking about skills is a couple of examples, since we don't have the full list on here, but you can see they are divided, like awareness, body control. So awareness is something like perception. Um, I'm trying to think of other. There's like a streetwise skill. There are a lot of skills
Yeah,
in Cyberpunk Red. A
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Um,
Like I said, as you do character creation, you'll also get a few recommended skills to work
yes,
off of. So that'll
yes,
take a
yes,
lot of the
yes.
intimidation off it.
Perfect. And you already explained how rolling works, but I think actually on the next slide we have a visual as well. So
Okay,
anyone who's
sorry,
a
I went a
visual
little ahead of
learner
the
out there, no,
slides. Yep.
you're good. You're good. It makes perfect sense.
This is my first
Um,
episode doing this. Sorry.
it's why I put it directly after talking about skills because it just flows so naturally.
Exactly.
If we want to get that up on the screen,
Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
there it is.
So, another important thing to note about rolling is the difficulty value. The difficulty value is much like the what the hell is
The
it called in
difficulty
D&D?
class in D&D.
Thank
So
you.
we
I
say
was like,
everyone says DC in D&D, and
yeah,
and
it's
we say
DV
DV in
here.
Cyberpunk. Yeah, same thing.
Yes. Yeah, so you can see the stat plus however many ranks you have in the skill, and then you roll a 1d10, and then you add everything together. That's the easiest part of Cyberpunk Red, probably.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
this equation right here. Um,
Exactly. It's very
in
similar to Pathfinder 1, where it's attribute, skill, roll, hope it works.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Um, I'm trying to think of some edge cases. So in opposed rolls, the defender's roll sets the DV.
Yep.
And then for crit successes and crit failures, when you roll a 10 on the die, you can roll another d10 and add it to your score. So the number can become very high very quickly. And a crit fail is the opposite of that. When you roll a 1, you roll another d10 and subtract it from your score. You can get a negative number,
Yep.
which is just really depressing.
Yep. This is the unique version of how Cyberpunk works with crits and fails. It's a mechanic they call exploding dice, meaning basically when you get the maximum number on that die, you just roll another one and let it compound. This is a little bit different from the from Dungeons and Dragons, where it's just like 20 on the die. It happens always.
Yeah.
One on the dice.
Imagine
It never
imagine
happens.
getting to roll a d20 again after you roll a 20.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, exploding dice will always be fun in your like when you first see in your games because it's like, oh, you have to roll again. Awesome. Um,
Oh boy.
oh boy. Also keep in mind, like to help with certain rolls, we have something called the luck stat. If you guys saw it in the first initial stats, luck is actually a pool of points that you'd be able to use in any given gig or adventure. I'm so like used to saying a gig because it's like that's our shorthand.
You're
Um,
so cyberpunk pilled, dude.
I know, right? I'm a chrome pill right there. But so yeah, at the end of at the beginning of an adventure, you have a pool of your luck, where your maximum luck is. If you feel like you need a bump up in your roll, you could spend luck points to bump up that number. So if I rolled a 11 for instance, and I felt like, oh no, I have to bump this up. Maybe the DV is a 12. I'll spend a luck point to do that, and you like I said, you can just burn those points. Once every adventure, they do replenish after the game session, but that's something very similar to the bardic inspiration from D&D. Another pool of resource that you can do to tip the scales in your favor.
Yes. I held on to luck points for a long time because I didn't realize they refreshed at the end of every session. I thought it was like every like arc or something.
Yeah.
And then when I
Yeah.
realized that, I was like, oh, luck, like let's go.
Oh, I think it was it the D6 games that made us hoard the character points. I thought which were their version of luck points. I remember like playing Star Wars D6 when I was a kid, and you only got so many character points, and you're like hoarding it.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
hoarding those.
Yeah. No, very let's use it or lose it, and it refreshes at the end of the session. So like it's not a big deal if you spend all 8 of your luck points to like it's totally fine. I love that.
Exactly,
Luck points. Good.
exactly. Just burn the luck. But
Burn the
yeah,
luck. Amazing. That's the basics of stats, skills, and how to actually make a roll in the game.
yes.
I think the next most important part is who are you playing in this game?
Oh yeah.
What are the roles and
Yeah.
character creation?
Not rolls, but roll. Like know your
ROLE.
role, baby.
Yeah, and we got up on the screen too a very helpful flowchart for making a character. But I just want to go over the different roles as well. So we
Yeah.
got Rocker Boys. Actually, I think we have it on the next slide as well.
Yeah.
If we click on over to it,
Should we do a fast run through, or should we hit details on each one?
we can do a little bit of detail since it's like probably new for some people,
Yes.
and not all of them are self-explanatory.
Half of them aren't.
Yeah.
We'll get the next slide
Next
rolling.
slide.
Oh, here we go.
Amazing. Okay.
Okay. We got on screen. We got execs, lawman, fixer, and nomad.
Yes.
Um. Okay. So
Let's
let's go. Let's ping pong. You go first.
All right, cool. Execs are corporate power brokers and business raiders fighting to restore the rule of megacorps. Not appropriate for every campaign, I will say. Sometimes, if everyone else is a criminal and you have an exec on your team, it makes things a little weird.
Yes. I actually shout out to Emma, a player I've had who was the executive of the group, and her whole arc. The cool thing about execs in game is they do have a few resources that are outside of Cyberpunk's usual resource set, especially in time of the Red, where to gain resources in the world, they have a lot of swap meets, something called night markets. Resources are not as prevalent as they would be in the video game or in our real life, where you could get it in some store because of how devastated and how decimated the center of the city was. A lot of commerce happens through um, swap meet markets, they call night markets, as well as an exec knowing a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. So our exec pitch had a couple connections with Militech, the big military technology company, until she got fired because she rolled with edge runners because she was rolling with cyberpunks.
Hell yeah.
But that's a different story. But yeah, execs are great for especially for advanced players who know how to weave that type of character in the narrative that goes a little contrarian to the rest of your party.
For sure.
Yeah. We got lawmen. Lawmen, also a little bit of a contrarian class. Like, how do you play a cop in a party full of lawbreakers or potential lawbreakers? Um, Lawmen, just by lore, if I could, I gotta be able to read this. Would you want to read it for me, Charlotte?
Yes,
That's on screen
they're
because
they're
it's too small
maximum
on my
law
screen.
enforcers patrolling the mean streets in barbarian war highways beyond.
Yes. So when you play a lawman, a lot of times you got to ask, okay, what kind of person within the law am I doing? Am I doing a corporate security? Am I NCPD? Am I NCPD beat cop that's in their own squad car?
Hmm.
You go, or you're gonna
Yes.
be
I
okay.
mean, to me, it's giving very much like the first Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
Um, 100%.
Exactly. The character I created very recently as a backup to my current character because Rain's about to go cyber psycho. We'll get into that. They were a detective in the university district, and so they had a flexible like code of ethics when it came to the law itself, but then it had a strong moral code of ethics when it came to people. So he was like, "All right, I'm gonna let you all party here. Let y'all have your parties. I'm even let y'all have your party drugs. But the moment homicides are showing up, a moment that the gangs are getting out of hand and there's some civilian casualties, a moment a cybercycle pops up on campus, that's where I step in. In the meantime, party on." So, there are ways to incorporate corporate and government, let's just say, characters into this punk genre. You just kind of know where their ethics lie and where will they bend the rules because it's part of the cyberpunk rule set.
For
Bend the
sure.
rules.
Amazing. Next up, we've got fixers, who are deal makers, organizers, and information brokers in the post war midnight markets of the street. So you mentioned the night markets.
Yep,
Midnight markets are very much like
they're
that.
fun. So think about fixers also. They're even more sophisticated in game than they are in the video game. In the video game, they're your quest marker, which is kind of like so. CD Projekt Red knows how to make a good story-driven game. Otherwise, they these characters would be boring little like World of Warcraft quest pings of like to me for a quest. No, it's not like that. They have being a fixer means you know not only where to get things, but where to get people to get more things.
Yes,
Um, they are your resource hub, even more in the red than they are even in 2077 or even in 2020.
for sure, for sure, for sure. A little bit of a face character as well.
Very much a face character.
Knowing
Like Han
people,
Solo would be a fixer. I
for
think I
sure.
think like I think he was sort of like a fixer between trilogies. He was a trade guy. I think in between trilogies, if I
Yeah,
remember
for
Star Wars
sure.
lore. Yeah,
It's all legit. It's all legit.
yeah,
And then last on this slide, we've got nomads, who are also very Mad Max inspired.
very Mad Max.
Transport experts, ultimate road warriors, pirates, and smugglers who keep the world connected. Your big thing, if you're a nomad, is you have a vehicle.
Yes, absolutely. I think the biggest selling point to play Nomad is the ride. You not only have a ride, but you don't have to drive it really, really, really well.
Really
Eh,
good.
Oh, really good. Like you could anything on wheels or even on wings or anything on boats. Anything with a motor, you pretty much got. Um, and if you really want to just wear a lot of leather, probably more leather than's functionally
Yeah.
oughta, everyone just looks at it and you're like, Nomad, rock on.
Hell yeah. We've got one of the characters in my home game is a nomad who is an ex-lawman.
That's
And
awesome.
they drive us around everywhere
Yep.
because
There.
no one else can drive.
If you don't like being the bus, do not pick Nomad. But there you go.
Amazing. I
I,
think the next slide should have the rest of the roles?
yep.
Question mark.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. Beautiful. This one's even smaller, so I will
Okay.
read it for you.
Please.
So we've got Rocker Boys, our Johnny Silverhands. Rock and roll rebels who use performance, art, and rhetoric to fight authority. Hello, bards.
Yep, they're the bards. And with that said, they're even more bardic than rock. I'm gonna say it this way: rocker boys don't necessarily have to be heavy metal musicians. I know that was the prototypical stereotype that Johnny Silverhand is. He's a metal singer. He's a metal lead guitarist. Um, but there have been rocker boy rappers. There have been rocker boy poets. There have been rocker boy influencers. There have been rocker
Yes.
boy pop stars. I think by
There are even rocker boy girls. What is the world
there's rocker
coming to?
girls. Oh god, so the last character I played, not I played, but I played with, shout out to Rook. They played a rocker girl named Dove, who is as much of a Taylor Swift pop star as you can think of. So don't gotta be metal to be a rocker boy. You don't even gotta be a girl to be a rocker boy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think even the
Is
Edge
that
Runner,
girl a
yeah,
boy too?
as girl and
Yes.
boy too. In fact, I think they just call them rockers in the Edge Runners mission kit, which is the
Mhm.
2077, 2076, the anime's tabletop DLC. We'll talk about it as it leaks around. But Edge Runners mission kit is just is just an addition to Red. It's not a new addition where it changes the game. It's just new material to coincide
Yeah.
with the awesome anime. But yeah, point
DLC,
being,
like you said before recording.
DLC. Yeah, they just rocker in Edge Runners kit because now they take all pronouns, all
Good. You love to
genders.
see it. You
They
love
they
to see
take they
it.
take the whole soup now.
Yep. All right. Next up, we've got solos, who are assassins, bodyguards, killers, and soldiers for hire in a lawless new world. Yeah, these are kind of your rogues. I think I would is the comparison I would draw the most to the solo.
Rogue and fighter hybrids for sure. So anybody who wants to play either their D&D fighter or their D&D rogue or their hybrid of both, your martial classes are gonna go right into solo. And I'll talk a little bit about like a few things about these roles after we get done with all of them. But yeah, these guys they like to fight. They like to mix it up. They have the abilities to mix it up. They have skill sets that'll boost up their combative uh, roles to give you an edge in the fight. So if you come from D&D and you're a fighter and or you want a very very simple character, go solo. The thing
Perfect.
is, they're infamous for being by themselves, but trust me, don't go alone. Don't split the party. Just because you're called solo doesn't mean you go solo. Work with your team. Be part of your crew.
Correct. Correct. All right, next up we have one of my personal favorites, the Netrunner.
Yeah.
They are cybernetic master hackers of the post-net world and brain-burning secret stealers.
Oh yeah.
In Cyberpunk Red, it's a little bit different than the video game and previous editions. The net, like the worldwide net, is like totally offline. It's been destroyed, so it's all very like local hubs, like local VPNs they call it. Um, and it makes net running very different. You can no longer sit in your apartment and hack. You
Yeah.
have to be in the action. So you have to be it. They're all arounders. You have to be good at sneaking around. You have to be good at fighting. You have to be good at hacking. Um,
Exactly.
I love a net runner.
Yes, 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 yes. And then we may talk about this more when we go into rules of combat. The Edge Runners mission kit expanded the Netrunner to the point where they added the quick hack system that the video gamers know, where let's just say, for you D&D warlocks and wizards who love status effect spells, Netrunner might be your role. Because they will just frizzle a guy's brain somewhere. It's very spellcasty feeling, which is kind of the cool part about Netrunners, at least in the Edge Runners kit. And it's still it's very similar still in Red, except they'll manipulate the environment more than individual people. So
Correct.
basically, they'll be the type that will be able to hack into a battlefield's subnet if the enemy has, say, turrets and they're shooting at you, and we're like, "Oh my god, we're so covered! Why we can't shoot anybody? We're getting rained with bullets." Netrunner's gonna be like, "Hack, hack, 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 hack! Those are my turrets now." And there
My
you go.
turrets now.
Yes.
Perfect. Next, we have techs. They are renegade mechanics and super tech inventors, the people who make the dark future run.
Yes. They are also chaotic monsters in every game I've ever seen. GMs, be sure to have your creative hat ready or have your firm firmness of rules ready because you'll have some tech players that'll come at you with some really creative inventions. Inventing is one of the biggest hallmarks of techs. Either jury rigging something to be unique, adding something to a piece of equipment and to make it different. So I helped a tech create a dual gun system called well, first I'll describe it first, and I'll tell the name. So in one hand is an air pistol, which doesn't fire bullets; it fires pellets of something. And another one is an actual gun. The air pistol fires balls of Chew 2, or it's the Cyberpunk world's version of gasoline.
Oh no, I see where this is going.
The actual gun fires incendiary rounds and lights people. This player
Little
lit people on fire.
explosions.
I rolled into it with my character. So Rain their own heavy pistol, and as soon as this character was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm going with," I'm like, "I'll help," and Rain's lighting people on fire too. So they created a system. So the character Kalea, I remember her name is. So Kalea has two guns called Joke and Punchline.
Damn.
And those were created because the player Valkyrie, she went to the GM and said, "Here, can we do this?" So if you have very
Love
creative
that.
ways, yeah, if you have a creative engineering mind, tech may be your thing.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Next, we've got med techs. They're the unsanctioned street doctors and cyberware medics, patching up meat and metal alike. These are your healers of the group.
They are so helpful. They yeah.
So
If you
helpful.
if you don't have one, get one.
Yes, med techs are the only ones who know the surgery skill, which is very helpful when you have no hit points left.
Yes. So not only not hit points left, but also keep in mind certain injuries. There's a mechanical critical injuries where something's wrong with you, which will give you
Lasting effects.
lasting effects. Not only the med tech will get fixed. So sometimes damage dealt is not just a drop in hit points. Sometimes it's a bad thing happening to your body. Broken arm, torn off arm, uh
Losing an eye,
losing an
et cetera,
eye,
et cetera, et cetera.
shrapnel like embedded. Yeah.
This is why,
So
as a side note, great time to have a discussion with your GM about any lines or veils you may have
yeah,
regarding bodily injuries. I
yeah.
know some people don't like eye stuff. I don't like broken bones. Just would talk to your GM about that, and then they can alter the critical injuries table accordingly.
Yeah. It'll still suck, it'll just make you squirm less in real life.
Yes, exactly. Um,
But yeah,
Perfect.
get your med tech, yeah. Get your healer.
We love a med tech. Last but not least, we have medias, who are reporters, media stars, social influencers, risking it all for the truth
Yeah.
or glory.
Yes. So the thing about media is they are the most information gathering of the roles. Can a fixer get some information? Absolutely. Can an executive get information? Absolutely. But a media's main resource. It's not a human resource like the execs are. It's not a material resource like the fixers are. Information, intelligence is the media's main source of currency. So if you're a very Sherlock Holmesy style player, if you're a player that likes to play a character that's a secrets trader, like, oh, I know something. Oh, it's going to cost you, but I know something. It's
Yes.
going to help you. The media is perfect for that. So, not a super popular role, but definitely memorable to good players who know how to really work the angles.
Amazing. And
Yeah,
now, everyone out there, you know the roles you can play in Cyberpunk Red.
yeah,
Yes, many of them not exactly straightforward, but hopefully this little snapshot has been
yeah.
helpful. Um, yeah, I
One
think
big
it's
note.
really cool.
Yeah, one big note is as you see all these roles, unlike other TTRPGs, which really like pegs you into a certain gaming trope, all these roles have the capability of doing all three facets of role playing games. In D&D, they have something called the three pillars of RPGs, which is combat, social, and exploration. I promise you, no matter what role you do, you will be able to do all three very effectively, just in its own different way. So a media can still gunfight. A solo can still talk. A rocker boy can still fight. Um, a netrunner can still drive. You're not gonna be super like stuck in something. You'll just have a specialty that just beams and comes out of the word work to make to improve the game's mechanics and improve your own sense of style with the character. So just because you do a more social role doesn't mean don't be afraid to fight. Don't be afraid. Your skills and your stats and the ranks in those skills to do combative stuff like handgun and melee, they'll still be there, and you'll still be able to do it with even against the best solos. So
Correct, correct,
just be
correct.
mindful of that.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent note. Thank you so much. I think that's, yeah, really brilliant. You can do, don't let anything intimidate you in Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah.
It's all doable. Whatever you want to do. In addition, each role has a role ability. And characters start with a rank of 4 in those abilities. So abilities, just like skills, have ranks. The I know the Netrunners won the most, which is obviously net running. So they have a rank for a starting character in net running. Um,
I know the nomads and the solos the most. Basically, the solos can basically use their ranks to improve combat related dice rolls, and the nomads have ranks that help them in driving stuff. Lo and
Perfect.
behold.
Yes.
But keep in mind, like I said before, you're not just constrained to just your roll ability. You can do all sorts of things. Like my nomad got into a kung fu match one time. It's happened. So,
Yes. I
uh,
mean, also nice to note that the a lot of these abilities are not tied to any stat or skill. They're their own thing.
yeah,
So you don't need to be like dependent on a certain statistic in order to be a good, nomad or net runner.
yeah,
Um, which I think is a clever way to do things.
exactly.
All
Right.
right, now that we know these roles, let's quickly talk about the steps of building a character. So there are basically a few ways to do that in Cyberpunk Red. The easiest, quick, and dirty way is what they call street rats, which is basically where you pick from a template. So you pick a package for your stats and skills. You Cyberpunk does a life path system, which I love.
Yes.
You pick your general life path and then how you became your role as well. And then you pick a weapon and gear package, and then you pick a cyberware package. So Street Rats is really easy to do.
Exactly. And then they have a very they have three ways. So Street Rats made it super simple. They have I forgot the name of it.
Edge Runners is the
It's
middle
Edge Runner's
middle
the middle
tier.
one, and then the last one is I forget the last one. It's like not complete, but essentially the complete
Complete
package.
package?
Yeah, I
I think
think.
they call it complete package.
Yeah. So complete package is basically where you will pick each. You'll have a pool of points for stats, then you'll have a pool of points for skills. Then you'll have a pool of money to get equipment and cyberware, and you'll do each thing bit by bit by bit. So you min maxers and you Pathfinder one math finders. I don't like throwing you Pathfinder players under the bus, but we jokingly call it math finder. You math finders out there who love being intricate, you guys can do it. Now, Edge Runner is the middle ground. You'll have a handful of stat packages. You'll have a handful of skill packages. You'll have a handful of recommended skills. Again, this will narrow the field of that giant skill list and say, well, okay, I need these essential ones, and then here's a few additional ones that would play well to this role. And even then, you'll still have a teeny little bit left over to start playing with other skills that may be more just unique to just maybe you want a solo that sings. Maybe you want a med tech that there's a skill called grooming who just looking good all the time. You may want that. And then Edge Runner also has it's like a middle ground where you have like a handful of options for your equipment and your cyberware. So The cool thing about these three different skill styles is that they take what would have been a very intimidating character sheet that looks very crunchy at first and simplifies and streamlines the process to make it a little less intimidating.
Yes, you love to see it. Cyberpunk Red, you have it all. If you want to do it the easy way, you can do it the easy way. If you want to do it the hard way, we can do it the hard way.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's really very smart to do. I love
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Um, all right. I think I've got cyberware in this section as well. Um,
Yeah, that.
hell yeah. Hell
Okay.
yeah.
So, cyberware. There's a lot of cyberware.
There's a lot of cyberware.
There's a
There's a
lot.
lot of
There's so
cyberware.
much. So a few things you need to know about cyberware. So there's certain essential cyberware that will bring your person back to a level of standard quality of life. So for instance, Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves' character, had a literal silver arm, as you guys see in the promotional art. That leveled him back to a baseline quality of life because he lost his arm in the Central American War, because drug wars, aren't they awesome? So he went back to Night City with no arm, jaded as all heck, got himself a metal arm, and became a rocker. Now, other cyberware may lower something called the humanity score. Again, like we talked about before, the more electronics and more metal you throw into your body, you have a danger of mentally disassociating from your own sense of humanity. So the cyberpsychosis is that dissociative disorder that's actually very real, but now you have the danger of creating symptoms of that by adding too much um beyond human cybernetics. So for instance, it may be super cool to say, hey, I got Wolverine claws. Um or I got a metal skeleton. Oh, I have jump rockets on my legs. Oh, I have an entire what's called linear frame, which my exoskeleton is friggin' all metal. Let's go full Wolverine on the sucker.
Hell yeah, let's
Um,
do it.
yeah. So the more the cyberware makes you go beyond a baseline human capability, more of a sense of humanity you lose. Very similar to vampire, where the more you become the vampire, just the more
Yes.
you
And would
live
you know it? We've
life.
covered Vampire the Masquerade on this very channel before.
Yes. So that sense of like, am I really human now? It just goes lower and lower and lower until you start getting these massive dissociative disorder symptoms. Uh,
Yes.
too
I
low. I was good.
oh no, go ahead. Too low and
You snap and you go full cyber psycho. You essentially have to give up your character to your GM as if they were dead. You have no control over them. The GM will play them to their worst tendencies because their psycho went their psychosis and their psychology went bye bye.
yes.
So
Yeah.
something to definitely watch out for. If for those of you who watched Edge Runners anime, and you saw the characters start really disassociating and hallucinations and and start really losing themselves. That was a real thing, and that's one of the best things about the anime is you saw cyberpsychosis firsthand. I'm not spoiling much because it's such a part of the game that if they didn't add that in there, it'd be a disservice. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to see a visual version of cyberpsychosis, the Netflix anime shows it perfectly.
Yes. And you've touched on it. I just want to emphasize again, not all cyberware contributes to humanity loss.
Yep.
Things that are medically necessary for your character do not contribute to humanity loss. It would be really fucking ableist otherwise if it
Oh
did.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so just saying that there, and even still, as a transhumanist at heart, I morally disagree with the idea that replacing your body with machine parts makes you less human, or but I understand the lore. It makes sense in the lore of Cyberpunk Red that this dissociative disease
That's why I mentioned
happens to
it as
people.
a true baseline human. That's why I always said
Yes,
I had that fine line of like it's gotta make you become human again, not become superhuman. The moment you become superhuman is the moment your super pulls away from the human.
yeah, yes. Fantastic. I think we've got one more. I think I have an example of the cyberware packages
Example
you get
image,
for each role.
exampage. Wow, nice. I like that.
Exampage. Yeah, so just if it very helpfully also comes with like the humanity loss if you choose these
Yeah,
upgrades.
yeah.
Amazing.
Uh,
Um, at that point, I think now that we've touched on the basics of the mechanics and a little bit of the lore too, we'll take a quick break here. And when we come back, we will talk about combat and some other fun stuff too, as well. Yeah, we'll see you guys after the break. Bye bye. Welcome back to Rough Start. We hope you had a nice little break. I know that we did. We had some Starbursts, so we drank some water, and it was lovely. We are talking Cyberpunk Red. Before the break, we talked about the lore of the time of the Red. We talked about the basic mechanics and character creation, and a little bit about cyberware too. And now we are going to get to the fun stuff. Our Friday night firefight. Combat, combat, combat. Let's go.
Just happens to be a Friday night at the time of this recording, so
Boom, let's go. It's
roll
airing on a
initiative.
Tuesday, but we're recording on Friday. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of rolling initiative, the first note on the outline is your initiative value is your reflex stat plus 1d10. That's how your initiative is determined.
The 1d10 will be the crux of your will something succeed or fail die. The entire Cyberpunk Red system is riding on two dice types, d6s and d10s. So the d6s are effect dice, usually damage, and then d10 will be the succeed or fail dice. So just
Yes.
essentially what D&D's d20 would be.
Beautiful. Amazing. Yes, here we are. Reflex plus 1d10. Your turn, when initiative gets to you, you have one move action and one action.
That's it.
That's it.
But what about bonus actions or reactions?
Nope.
Nope. And here's the
Nothing.
reason why. The bigger reason why is uh, Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder run on the 6-second round. Cyberpunk runs on the 3-second round. So, yeah, it's faster. It's just faster.
Yes, fast. That being said, there are a lot of different actions you can do during combat. The list was also quite long. I did not include it on here, but you can do things like grapple and choke someone. You can do all sorts of stuff like that. You have a ranged attack versus your melee attack. So we have up here the ranged combat example. So your reflex plus the relevant weapon skill plus your 1d10 roll versus the difficulty value determined by the range from you to the target, or the defender's dexterity plus evasion skill plus 1d10.
This will be the trickiest part that every new Cyberpunk player, especially coming from D&D, is going to first contend with. Your success or fail of your attack roll will not be as determinate by the defender or the person you're targeting. You're actually gonna look down at a chart, like a quick little line chart on your weapon, because certain guns have better ranges than others. Certain guns are designed for close range. Certain guns are designed for long range. So the DV of whether you hit that target with your bullet or not is gonna be dependent on the gun. So unlike D&D players that are like, I rolled this. It's just I rolled a natural 20. Oops. Does it hit? And you're asking the GM or the opposing player.
Yeah,
And they
you'll
have
know if it hits.
you'll know if it hits. You'll look at your chart and be like, okay, that hits. The
Yes.
exception, and we just mentioned it, is if a character's reflex, I believe, are the reflex stat is 8 or above, they can roll an evasion, which is an opposing D10 roll, to see if they could roll higher than that to dodge the bullets. But if they
Yes.
don't got that reflex, then it's going to be completely up to you and the range of your gun to see if you succeeded or failed.
Absolutely. When we were first starting our Cyberpunk game, we were all new to the system, including the GM, and we definitely did both. We did DV determined by the range, and then the defender's dexterity plus evasion skill, which is not how you do it. You
You're
you
close.
do you do the range, and then if the reflex score is 8 or higher, then you can choose to dodge, just like you said.
Yeah. The exception to that is melee combat. You'll be able to evade everything in melee.
Yes, and we've
The
got melee combat on the next slide, in fact. Look at you
Lona
go! How
Bow! I'm just
clever!
getting a little ahead
How
of our.
amazing!
Yes.
Yes, melee combat is resolved by the attacker's dexterity score plus the relevant melee attack skill plus 1d10. You can see a formula here of how the equations are happening versus the defender's dexterity plus evasion skill plus 1d10. My character has a very high evasion skill and has never been hit in combat. Fun fact.
Yeah. So as I learned the game, the one thing that all the players have told me, and this is kind of an insider secret, is if when in doubt, if you don't know what to shove your IP, your improvement points into, evasion, evasion,
Yeah.
evasion. If you have a character whose reflexes are 8, you might
You
find
can
yourself
dodge bullets,
shoveling.
dude.
Yeah, you might be shoveling all those improvement points into evasion until it's at a ridiculously high amount, and then you improve other scores and other skills. But not getting
Amazing, amazing.
shots important. I think. I
So
don't know.
important. Yes, so important. Speaking of not getting shot, cover and armor. Um, cover is in Cyberpunk Red. The golden rule is there's no partial cover in Cyberpunk Red, just like in real life. Um, I love that they're just like it can either stop a bullet or it can't. I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly.
Cover has HP in the game, so they'll like you can shoot at cover and wear it down until it breaks down.
Yep.
And then the
Exactly.
person hiding behind cover no longer has cover.
Exactly. So the thing about Cyberpunk Red, it used to be a lot more complicated of a game. Like D&D Fifth Edition and other editions of D&D, there is the partial cover rule, which adds difficulty to hit you. But then they're like, "Come on, man, it's getting a little complicated here. All right, most players will be pew pew back. They don't just go
Yep.
pew pew. Did I hit them? Did I hit the?" And
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't do
yeah,
it in real life.
no,
So
you would
why
do it in
would you
real
do it
life.
in Cyberpunk Red?
Exactly.
Uh amazing. So cover, HP, there you go. Armor has what's called stopping power. This is how much damage gets absorbed, but absorbing the damage does also wear the armor down. So like in D&D or Pathfinder, armor just adds to your armor class. Here it's like damage reduction soaking up damage.
Yeah, this is the biggest difference in combat when it comes to Cyberpunk between Cyberpunk and D&D. We're so used to in D&D and Pathfinder and the D20 games that armor will improve the odds of not taking damage. Where in Cyberpunk, because we're dealing with more powerful melee weapons, cybernetics, and bullets, it's not a matter of can the armor deflect the bullet? It's no, can the armor catch the bullet, and
Yep.
how badly does it hurt you when it catches it?
Yeah, like
Um,
when you wear a Kevlar vest and you get shot, it's still going to leave a bruise.
yeah, at least if you're lucky, it leaves a bruise. Um, and yeah, so that's the biggest difference. So no, your armor will not improve the DV of getting hit or not.
Yep.
It's obviously you want to use cover. Obviously you want to use your have good reflexes. Obviously you want to play it smart because this world gets deadly. Bullets are deadly.
What?
Surprise!
Wow, this is shocking news to me. This is
I know.
shocking to me.
I know. I
I've
know.
never heard that before.
Pew
Yeah, and
pew.
armor as well you can wear on your body and your head, so you
Yep.
basically have two slots on your character sheet. You should wear armor on both.
Yes.
FYI, you can do a called shot in this game. So if you're not wearing a helmet and someone does a headshot on you, you get shot in the head.
And it's more damage.
Yeah,
A lot more
that's no
damage.
good.
Yeah, we'll save you the specifics on how much more damage. It's more damage.
It's more damage. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But if you have armor on, the SP stops that amount from the damage. And then any remaining damage you subtract from your hit points, and the stopping power goes down on your armor.
Just this quick little example. Let's just say this. Charlotte, do me a favor. Point at the camera and go pew pew.
Pew pew.
My jacket. Let's say my jacket is a piece of armor called the light armor jack. Essentially, in Cyberpunk, it is clothing with some armor lining. She pew pews me and hits me. Um, she'll roll damage, and whatever that damage is, it'll be subtracted by what's called a stopping value or stopping power. For light armor jacks, that's 11. So let's say her damage is 18. That means
Not bad.
11 point.
Not bad.
Not bad. It's not bad. You went small caliber today. Thank you. I appreciate you not killing me here.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You went with a medium
Anything for
pistol
you,
today.
Troy.
Oh, I appreciate it. Just shoot me for example's sake. So for that example, 18 damage. 18 damage is not coming to me directly. 18 damage will be subtracted by 11 because of this armor. That means 7 damage goes directly to my hit points. So I take that into my hit point pool. And that's essentially how it works. Now, one little additional rule: if the damage is beyond the stopping power of this armor, hence 18 versus 11, the value of this armor goes down because you're wearing the armor down. So now the next hit that hits me, pew pew, the stopping power is 10, and then the next bullet, 9,
9.
so on and so forth. Now, if Charlotte comes in with a little, like a BB gun, and the damage is say 3, nothing happens.
Totally
That's how
absorbed.
armor
Don't
works.
have to worry about it.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yes.
She don't got no Red Rider
Perfect.
on her, okay? She ain't gonna shoot my eye out,
Yeah.
But that's how armor works.
Yes. Perfect. Lovely, succinct example. Thank you so much. Let's talk about when the damage does go through the stopping power of the armor. Let's talk about wounds and critical injuries and maybe even death. Uh, no good. So we already talked about how when you roll damage, the armor absorbs it, you take the remainder. When you have less than half of your hit points, that's where things start to have mechanical consequences for you. That is when you become seriously wounded and you take a -2 to all actions. Um, Mortally wounded is even worse.
Yeah.
Mortally wounded is you have less than 1 HP, which is presumably 0, because I don't think you can have a fraction amount of HP in Cyberpunk Red. But that is, you are making death saves at that point. You are unconscious pretty much, and it's harder to bring you back. And then when you fail even one death save, you are dead. There is no 3 strikes in this game.
No, no 3 saves up, no 3 saves down. It's um,
Yeah.
this is
You
why
fail
you need
once.
your med techs, because med techs have ways to they have actions to get you back up, or at least get you stable, to make sure you're not rolling death saves. They
Yes.
have devices such as cryo pumps, which will prevent you from having to make death saves, which will at least
Mm.
stabilize you, so they can drag your still stable but still alive carcass out of the battlefield. I am speaking from experience, not as the med
Yes.
tech, but as the carcass.
Live to fight another day.
Exactly.
And the death save is you have to roll under your body score. So say you have a body score of 8, uh, you roll a d10. If you get under an 8, you have succeeded. You need to keep
Exactly.
on making death saves for as long as you are not stabilized by another player. Um, and it gets harder every time to do so.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you can see this, the spiral, the ramp to death can get very steep
Yeah.
very quickly.
It escalates pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
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 We'll skip the other part of combat called vehicle combat for now, but there is another kind of combat out there called reputation combat.
Yeah.
Something called a face down. This has been in my experience, been a way that we have shortened and stopped many fights and prevented them from dragging out way too long. Have you ever done like tabletop RPGs where it felt like the GM forgot about the psychology of your monsters and you end up having to fight to the last monster? You don't necessarily have to do that here in Cyberpunk. We
Yeah.
have something called the
Crazy.
face down mechanic. The face down mechanic uses something called the reputation of your character. As your character gains, like succeeds in gigs and succeeds in their story, they'll be gaining reputation points to show the renown and show how well they're known within Night City. This will add to a bonus using that, which also utilizes the character's cool stats, and they will make an opposing roll of reputation and cool, and the dice. There's your pattern again, against a similar roll against your opponent. Now, if you were to win that face down, a few things can happen depending on how the role play goes. If you're saying a quippy one liner, which I've done before, Rain ended up doing a really stylish ninja kill shot with their short sword. Looks to the rival ninja of the opposing gang, says a one-liner that I completely forgot, but it might have
It's
been
fine. We
so
never remember our
cool.
one-liners.
Yeah, cool one-liner. But it prompted the GM to make me do face down, which is cool. Plus rep plus D10.
Beautiful.
Opposing the person's cool rep D10. They failed. I succeeded. Therefore, my their attacks against me were at a penalty. My attacks against them were at a were having more advantage. Now,
You love to
sometimes
see it.
you love to see it, especially if it's a mid fight. But if you may have a certain rocker boy or rock girl or someone with influence could verbally de-escalate the fight after you're winning enough times, face down, succeed, you have probably saved yourself 30 minutes worth of in-game dice rolls.
Love it.
And maybe have expanded the role play because the character the opposing forces live to play out the scene with you. They live to
Yes.
run, they live to surrender, they live to negotiate, they live to live.
Yes. I also love that reputation can be negative.
Yeah.
So if you have like a defining reputation event where you like ran away from a fight and you're known as a coward, you would subtract your reputation score from this roll, which is just so juicy. I love it.
Oh gosh! Shout out to Dexter Deshawn, the character from 2077, who has a negative reputation. He got what
Beautiful.
was coming to him.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting the way that the book is set up as well to do a little tangent. So they have all the combat in one place. So they've got like Friday Night Firefight, vehicle combat, reputation and face downs and net running all in action because that's like the fighting in the game even if it's not always actual fighting.
Yep.
Um which I think is a very interesting way to do things.
Yep.
Um which I think we should backtrack a little bit. Speaking of net
Yeah.
running on the screen right now, let's talk about trauma team and stabilizing damage real quick. Which we
Yes,
yeah, going back
because
here. There we
healing
go.
is nice, even though you don't get a lot of it.
Yes,
Uh,
so stabilizing a target is one of the most important things that you can do for your friends. It gets harder the more wounded a person is. Stabilization is an action, and it takes the tech stat plus your first aid skill or your paramedic skill plus 1d10. You can also potentially use cyber tech if it's applicable, or surgery if you're a med tech.
yeah. Th- the thing you guys would really need to know about anything that has to do with healing here in Cyberpunk is that it's slower. It's just to make sure you don't die. You're
Yes.
not going to be replenishing a lot of hit points very, very fast. You're essentially going to be given things by your med tech to make sure you can actually facilitate healing, which is a slow process of like your body score. Or sometimes your body score, sometimes double your body stat in a day per day.
Yes.
Um,
Per diem.
yeah, exactly. So it does move a lot slower, therefore making the game a lot more uh a lot more deadly. Now,
Oh my god, your actions have consequences?
oh my lord, do
I don't
they?
believe that.
And
I don't believe that.
how?
I don't
Yeah,
believe that.
you know,
No consequences, only coincidences. I've never had a consequence in my life.
God, that feels like there's even an RPG that's like just like that. It's just everything is a happy mistake.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Well, speaking of happy mistakes, that's not a good transition at all. But do you have trauma team insurance, Troy?
oh my lord, I don't have trauma team coverage. You know how much that stuff is? You know how much trauma team coverage is in this damn Night City?
Do you have silver or platinum trauma team insurance
Oh god,
coverage?
I don't have any. Okay, let's open the veil of the wall. I'm actually typing in. I forgot this off the top of my head. Cost of trauma team. A trauma team is a mega corporation. It's a medical mega corporation that is super super awesome because if you go down, they will send essentially a flying SWAT truck ambulance hybrid to you to get you out of the situation. So
Yeah,
let's
it's if 911 was a private corporation.
yeah, and they had stupid money, but
Yeah.
because You'll see why they have stupid money in a moment. But let's say you're rich. Let's say
And
you're
if
rich.
they could refuse to treat you,
Yeah, if they can
if you don't
refuse.
have the funds.
Exactly.
If there's no do no harm oath here in the future, in the
Exactly.
dark future.
Oh God, let's get into that. So let's just say this. Charlotte, can you give me another pew pew?
Pew
All right, I'm
pew.
down. I am bleeding out, but my monitor relays to my phone to send trauma team because I got that moolah. So a giant SWAT truck slash ambulance shows up. Two people come out with SWAT gear in their submachine guns, giving me cover fire while the med techs drag my body out there, flying me off to the next hospital. Oh, by the way, that just probably covered the ambulance bill. That might not even cover hospital fees. It may or may
Yeah.
not, depending on what the coverage is. So, let's see. According to the Cyberpunk Wiki, this plan costs, get this, uh, I had to double check it. It said 34,000. I got double check the game itself. But it said 34,000 a month. Um, cost of trauma team. I gotta double check the Google on that one. I'm sorry. Okay, in game it's $500 per month. Would you like to pay $500 per month out of pocket, or $5,500 per year?
Boy, howdy.
And $100 a month for every minute until arrival at the nearest hospital.
I mean, that's just like some insurance premiums
That is some insurance
currently.
premiums. Yeah.
Oh man,
Uh,
it's almost like it's an allegory for our current system
is it?
somehow.
Is
Oh my
it?
goodness.
Remember when I told you, what if Reaganomics just got cranked to an 11?
Oh
Because this was written. The first
no.
edition of this game was written in '88.
Oh, you hate to see it. You hate to see
You
it.
hate to see it.
Um, yes, God. Anyway, you can also get therapy for when your humanity gets too low.
Okay, so yeah. Yeah, therapy's so good. Okay, I wanted to mention this before. There's actually a therapy mechanic system to restore some of that humanity, as well as the Edge Runners mission kit has an expanded rules for humanity loss and gain. You can actually have net loss and net gain rolled every month. And the reason and some of the ways you could gain humanity back is not just through therapy, but through events with close friends and family, wicked parties with your camaraderie and your entire crew, having a better quality of food, having a better quality apartment and a better living space, not going through
Oh
traumatic
my god.
events.
Oh my god, things that materially impact your mental health. Oh my god.
Right?
Crazy.
Right? As if
Crazy.
mental health was an underlying theme in this game.
Whoa. I don't
So
believe
yeah,
it.
right. So yeah,
I don't believe
the
it.
folks at Artal decided to really expand on the advocacy of mental health by expanding the rules of humanity and not just making it a loss. They give you ways to get it back. So that's another reason why to play the Edge Runners kit as well as Cyberpunk Red is you'll actually get to experience that. And remember to take care of yourself in real life.
Beautiful. Amazing.
There you
You
go.
can take care of yourself by playing really cool TTRPGs with your friends, actually.
You'll gain humanity in real life.
Yeah, in real life. I love it so much. Okay, now we can get to running, I think.
I'm gonna leave this to you.
Backtracked.
Yeah, go
There we
for
go.
it, all you.
It's my time. It's my time. Okay, so net running. You need specific tools to net run, first of all. You need your cyber deck and your virtuality goggles. You need a neural implant to plug in to the net. And you need programs that go on your cyber deck so you can do things when you're in the net. You have meat actions and net actions. Meat actions are meat space. They're your real physical body. Um, Net actions, you have as many as your role ability allows. So at the first level, when you have rank 4 in net running, you can do 3 actions in the net. You still get to take your move action as well. You must be within 8 or 6 meters of a control node to access the net architecture. The net architecture is like the schematics of the data that is on the net. Combat in the net is very much like combat in meat space. You are fighting other net runners or potentially malicious programs called black ice programs or even demons, which are very dangerous programs that want to kill your brain, essentially. Um, and the formula for that we've got on the next slide. It is very similar to everything else. It is your net running roll ability plus your whatever program you're using to attack has an attack value plus 1d10 versus the opposing. What is it? The opposing. Well, it's on the next slide, regardless, even if I've forgotten what it is at the moment. Um, there we go. Plus the target's interface. Um, interface is the netrunner's ability. That's what it's called. Plus 1d10 or the program's defense / the black ice defense plus 1d10. So again, similar formula. Your blank plus 1d10 versus your target's blank plus 1d10.
So from a lore perspective, what you gotta do, what you imagine is the Netrunner. When the Netrunner puts their virtuality goggles on, there is essentially it's a very superpowered version of what we call AR in real life, augmented
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
So imagine an augmented reality from your goggles. So you'll see digital little fortresses. You'll see floating windows pop up that the Netrunner's manipulating. They may see a digital amalgamation of like a T-Rex for whatever
Yes.
Black Ice program shows up.
Netrunners also have an avatar when they're on the net too. So think about like it's like your Gaia online or
Yes.
your your RuneScape, your little guy that you're walking around as your online.
I was about to say
Um,
Second Life, and then I thought for the kids, your Fortnite skin.
yes, it's your Fortnite skin. 100% perfect perfect analogy. It's your Fortnite skin.
Yep.
Yes, it is an augmented reality. Um, so the virtuality goggles, once again, in Cyberpunk Red, it functions a little bit differently than previous editions, where you have to like you would be like blacked out, like you can only do net stuff. Um, Here you can still run around and stuff and not like run face first into a wall because you can still see.
Yeah.
There's just programs and other netrunner avatars and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera overlaid your vision.
So I always describe it to D&D players as think of it as a digital ethereal plane. It's still
Yeah.
linked up to your material plane, but there's just more. There's
Yes.
digital ghosts and stuff floating around you.
Yes.
So you could
And
still be
the
able to
net
maybe good.
sorry, and the net architecture itself is like kind of a mini dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons terms. Like you have rooms that you enter. It's like the scene in Jurassic Park where she goes, "It's a Unix system. I know this," and she clicks on all the little boxes. It's exactly that's what a net architecture is. 100%.
Yeah, bingo, exactly. So yeah, that running is it's its own almost mini game. So
It is.
it's definitely things you gotta watch out for. The Edge Runners mission kit just expands this even more by adding essentially practically like I said before magical spells. So now everyone in Edge Runners has their essentially a little mini computer in everyone's brain. So imagine your smartphone is in here. What
And
can go wrong?
you can hack it.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy can you hack it.
Boy, howdy, can you hack it? So, um, it just adds the Edge Runners kit just adds just even more little things that you can do. You essentially hacking a person now and messing with their little computer chippy brains.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, which is
Love that.
God, that's why I don't want to. The thought of a neural implant to me, like, 'cause
No,
this,
thank you.
no, thank
No,
you,
no Neuralink for me.
no neural for
No,
me
thank
either.
y'all. Y'all. Uh,
But there you go.
amazing.
That is that run in.
That was the really, really quick and dirty version of net running.
Yeah.
If you are interested in playing a net runner, I definitely recommend going through and looking at all the programs that you can have on your cyber deck. There's a lot of fun ones on there.
Oh yeah.
I think with that, let's talk about running the game of Cyberpunk Red.
All right.
Hell yeah, let's
This
party.
gets yeah. Let's gets crazy. Um.
Yes.
So the book lore, we blasted through just up until the time of Red. So there is a
Yeah.
lot of lore to work with. So I would recommend reading the actual core rulebook of Cyberpunk Red because the timeline from there is pretty streamlined, and you'll get the idea. Now,
For sure.
one big recommendation I do is if you're not a book person or not a person who wants to read a whole entire book, there's lore videos on YouTube that are incredibly helpful. And since the video game has been out for a good while now, many YouTubers have since compiled a lot of their lore videos into, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3, 4 hour splurge splurge lores.
Yeah.
When you just make a compilation video, and you could just listen to that when you're driving, listen to that in your sleep, listen to that when you're doing casual stuff. There's a lot of great cyberpunk lore YouTubers out there. In my notes, I got my top three. My three favorites are Wise Fish on YouTube, who does a lot of cyberpunk lore. Laid Back Games does cyberpunk lore. My absolute favorite is Liddy Scott, a YouTuber shared by stories, who not only does the lore video but does character analysis videos, and she has like the most soothing voice about talk. Like she is like, yeah, so relaxing talking about a dark future, and yeah, so you'll see a lot of not only lore but character analysis,
Love it.
which will help you even more dive into the themes of cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Um, because you'll be learning about characters' aspirations, inspirations, and pitfalls. And you want to play a
Yes.
character with some pitfalls because that's the point. That's part of the
Of
five rules.
course. Absolutely.
Um,
Uh, I would
yeah, go ahead.
definitely add Cyberpunk Edgerunners on that list too, the Netflix show.
Yes.
Really great for like the vibe of
Yeah.
cyberpunk and also the slang. I feel like when
Oh,
I watched an episode of Edge Runners, I'm like, oh, I can do the slang now.
yeah,
Couldn't do the
exactly.
slang before.
It's so weird with trying to leak into real life and you're just hoping someone gets it.
Yeah.
Like, and I wrote it. I wrote this on Threads because I'm on Threads. I'm not on any other social media channel. I wrote, "Oh, the term gonk has leaked into my vernacular. Sorry in advance."
That's so funny.
And who knows gonk? Gonk, stupid idiot. It's slang for
Yep.
stupid idiot. You're being silly. You're being dumb.
You're being a gonk.
You're being a gonk.
I don't know what to tell you.
Obviously
Uh,
the most popular one's choom.
Choom.
Choom, singular, choomba or choombas for plural. So what's up, Choom? Um, Zero / flatline is another word for dead.
Hmm. There's a whole
Nova,
list in the
yeah,
book of slang
yeah.
words.
Nova, great.
Um,
That's Nova.
yes. It's Nova. Amazing. I think the big piece of advice is don't be intimidated. There's a lot of stuff going on in Cyberpunk Red. If you don't know the lore, I know we just gave a bunch of recommendations for our channels. That's awesome. Watch them if you want. If you don't know all of the lore, I release you. That is okay. You don't
Yeah,
have to worry about it.
no,
Okay?
exactly.
You don't have to freak out about not knowing the lore. Um I, I did also message my GM for their advice for people who run Cyberpunk, and I'll just read verbatim what they said.
Go for it.
A lot of preemptive research. After our first few games and getting the advice that it wasn't running exactly right, I did a deep dive into the areas I was confused by, primarily around skills, net running, and combat. Once you get those areas down, the game gets a lot simpler, which makes sense because
Yeah,
most of the game complexity is in those areas. Pinterest is your best friend for maps. It's a lot harder finding cyberpunk maps online than it is for D&D, for example,
yep,
which I think is good advice.
yeah.
Just brush up on the stuff that you're not sure about and seek inspiration where you can find it.
It also, if I could shamelessly plug our Talsorian Games for a moment, and
Yes.
I don't have any discount code. I don't get any commission off of this, but as a personal opinion, they have greatly improved their um their writing style and skills when it comes to writing modules.
Mm,
So I say this as constructive criticism. Back in the day, it was a little bit tougher running adventures and adventure gigs from Cyberpunk Red because they did their best to make one-page adventures, which are great. But if you're not so knee deep in the lore yet, or how a person would interact in that world, it's a little bit bare bones.
yep.
So shout out to both their Edge Runners mission kit and their newest book, um, Tales from the Red: Hope Reborn, which
Yeah.
is very similar to Tales of the Yawning Portal and D&D, where it's a collection of adventures. They are the ability to write a module in a way to make you understand how to run it and what possibilities are has improved greatly. So, of those two books, those will be the best ones to really learn how to run it because it's going to walk you through it even easier.
Yes. Amazing. And Cyberpunk Red also has a really good quick start guide,
Yep.
which is, quick and dirty. I would definitely recommend checking that out as well.
Yep.
If you're planning on running the game and you're not exactly sure where to start, pick up the quick start.
Yep. Yeah. Both Edge Runners and Red's quick start guides are both terrific.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah.
I think we can start wrapping it up now. Do you have any
Yeah.
final words you want to say about running the game or about Cyberpunk Red in general? Close out.
Um, Best to explore it. Best to just explore it.
Hell yeah.
Just dive in. It's a game world unlike any other because it's just the game has been out for a version of the game's been out for as long as there has been tabletop RPGs. It came in that second generation of RPGs from the oh my god, the old timers out there, if they remember BX D&D Red Boxes edition, the AD&D second edition. Cyberpunk came out then. So
Yeah.
this is a very deep, entrenched world. Don't be
She's
afraid to
got a
just dive in.
legacy. She's got a
Yeah.
legacy.
Got a legacy. That Night City. Girl's
Yeah.
got a legacy.
We love her, we hate her. Night
Yes.
City.
Exactly. Love her, hate her, Night City. Um, so yeah, just definitely dive in. You'll be surprised how it feels compared to other RPGs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. I think with that, wonderful place to close it out. I think that does it for Cyberpunk Red. I hope all you punks out there have everything you need to get cybered up, clep from a megacorp, flatline a lawman, and live fast on the streets of Night City. If you've made it this far into the video, let me know in the comments below what sort of cyberware you would get. I think for me, I would have to get light tattoos, which
Oh
are
my god, yeah,
light up
gorgeous.
tattoos, really cool. I would just go fashion wear all the way. I would be
Yeah.
decked out in the coolest looking shit imaginable. How
Yes.
about you, Troy?
Oh, I give you a list. Okay, first off, as much as I want to be badass, I definitely start with quality of life upgrades. So we're talking Cyber Eyes, aka no more glasses or contacts.
Hell
Um,
yeah, hell yeah.
at that point, in for penny, in for a pound, I'd add some infrared and night vision to those. Something called enhanced antibodies for greater immunity, because man, allergies suck.
Oh,
Um, and maybe some enhanced muscle and bone lace because I just want to look like a gymnast himbo, just
hell
go
yeah.
like that. And
I
then if I
approve.
oh, thank you. If I feel like I need to get strapped, which is not a cyberpunk term, that is a Chicago modern day term. I would do what's called a pop up heavy pistol in my arm, which essentially Edge Runners has this in the anime. Imagine my arm go chink chink boom, and it has a gun
Boom.
Mega Man style. Um,
Hell yeah.
but I know it's a lot, and that there would be humanity loss. So mental health is important. Chrome up responsibly, chooms.
Chrome up responsibly. Amazing. Oh, of course, Cyberpunk Red can be found at talsorianstore.com. That's TALSORIAN store.com. Please check it out if you are interested in running this game. Highly recommend. It's super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Thank you, Troy, for joining me, and thanks to all of you out there for tuning in. I have been Charlotte. I continue to be Charlotte. You can find me online, mostly on Blue Sky and Instagram these days, both at the Cornbreb with a B. Where can people find you, Troy?
All right, thank you once again. Thank you for inviting me, Charlotte. This has been an
Of
honor
course.
and so awesome to talk cyberpunk with you. It's been so fun. You can find me at Troy Bushido on Instagram, TikTok. I will eventually get the Blue Sky, but for now, I'm on Instagram's version of Twitter, which is Threads, not X, Threads. So you can find me on Threads on there. It's Troy Bushido 247 on Twitch,
Hell
and I'll
yeah.
see you on Blue Sky eventually when I get there. You can also
I
find me
look
Troy.
forward to it.
Please, and I'm Troy Bushido on Discord. So yeah.
Perfect. All right, and of course, don't be a gonk. Subscribe and ring the notification bell for more Rough Magic games. Rough Start goes up every other Tuesday, but we have plenty more on the channel for you to choose from. Like the video if you liked the video, and we will see you next time, Choombas.
All right, we
Bye.
got Delta. Peace.